Oh, here it goes. As Amalia introduced myself, I have a background of about 25 years of experience in accounting and finance. And I had very severe eczema that with diet, fasting, and colonic hydrotherapy, I was able to totally clear. And I became very motivated to help others. So that's how I became first a colonic hydrotherapist, then a coach, and a registered nutritional therapist. In 2020, I opened my own physical clinic where I also rent out rooms. Talking to other practitioners, I realized how hard it is for everyone to start their own business, even more if you don't have background in finance. So first I started to help some of my NT friends with tasks like setting up their practice better accounts or doing some tax calculations, submitting their tax return. And now I'm specialized with my accounting business to help small businesses like yourself, different alternative practitioners. So you can find my information, my website and email address there. When I was asked to prepare for this webinar, I wanted to speak to a wider audience. I know some of you might be students or just starting their own business, and then you have questions how to even get started. Some of you already working as a sole trader nutrition therapist and might be wondering how or when to switch to become a limited company. And I know some clinics, some nutrition therapists who work together, or they are growing their business and they are wondering when or how to decide to become VAT registered. Keeping all this in mind, I'm going to start my presentation with an overall information about how to make decisions. What are the different areas you need to make decisions when you start your own business? Then I'm going to talk about advantages and disadvantages of being a sole trader versus a limited company. I'm going to also cover some VAT questions. At the end, we can ask some frequently asked questions, first that I think most of you have, and obviously if you put some more questions in the chat, we're gonna try to cover all of those. And at the end, I'm also gonna announce a training that I'm gonna invite you that I'm gonna do in May, and also give you information how to work with me one-to-one if you wish to do so. So again, when you need to make a decision on starting your own business, you're gonna have actually a lot of decisions to make. When I was looking into doing this presentation, I was thinking to group them in these 8 different big categories that I'm gonna touch based on a little bit. If you look at the highlighted areas, that is what I'm gonna go into more details. So first of all, we're going to have a goal, because otherwise we wouldn't want to start a business. And we need to have a business plan in place. We're going to do some market research, decide on our branding, what services we're going to offer, how we're going to promote our services. A big decision is to make what legal structure we're going to start our business in or when to switch over, and whether we're going to run our business on our own, or we're going to have a team, hire some people for different business tasks to do. So let me cover every section a little bit more. So as I mentioned, I started my practitioner journey as a colonic hydrotherapist. So basically, when I helped myself to get my eczema cleared, I became really motivated to help others. So that was my motivation to start a business. Then it was clear what I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell colonic hydrotherapy treatments. And obviously later on, I added other services. When I got qualified, I became a coach, a nutritional therapist. Then you decide to offer other services like selling products supplement, test. Who I'm selling my services to? Obviously, as a colonic therapist, most of the clients, the ideal client, are people with digestive issues. As a nutritionist, some of you already specializing, so you know how important to know who you are selling your products or services to. How you're going to work online, in person, one-on-one. You're going to have group sessions. The next step is creating your business plan. So what exactly is a business plan? So you had this idea to start your own business. You have a lot of ideas, a lot of goals, what you want to achieve. So basically, the business plan is to put all these thoughts down and in an organized, structured manner. This potentially, it's a good idea to have like a 5-year plan. Years 2 to 5, it's just high level, maybe in an annual basis. But the first 12 months, it's much better to have a more detailed weekly, monthly, or even a weekly business plan. So part of that business plan is the cash flow budget. So why I think, and this is highlighted here, because I believe the difference between just having a hobby or having a real business is to have this cash flow budget and forecast. So what that means, you need to have listed all your expenses, your income for all the services you offer. You have your services priced. You need to plan what do you think, how many customers, clients you're going to have in all the services, how many clients you're going to sell your test or supplements to. And when you have all this in a spreadsheet, the bottom line, it needs to be positive. And in the beginning, it might be hard to achieve this. But when you put this down in a 12-month basis, you can look ahead and see, oh yeah, in month 6, I have a negative cash flow. So that is when you need to make a decision. Okay, well, I can't have a negative cash flow. What I'm going to do? Well, the best is to try to increase your income. So what I'm going to do to increase my income? What's my strategy? Am I going to do some free talks? I'm going to post more on Instagram. What exactly I'm going to do? Or potentially you included some expenses for some continuing education training. Then you're going to think, okay, well, can I really afford this training at the moment? Should I postpone it a little bit? Or potentially you have some savings and you can support your business in that way or get a loan. But again, this spreadsheet, this cash flow budget forecast is really important because this is how you can monitor your business on a continuous basis. On this page, I'm not going to talk too much. You all know you need to do some market research, decide what you're going to offer, what's your branding, depending on your ideal client. You might have a certain color that it's more preferred for certain niche market. But what's important about branding, you're going to use the color scheme, the logo, the fonts in all your material. So you start to be recognized by your clients, all your flyers, social media, website, everything. Before starting your business or to see clients, I mean, you're going to need to have your term of agreement and cancellation policy. It's important. Again, you are doing a professional business. You need to have all this in place. You're going to decide whether you work one-on-one or in packages, group sessions, and price all your services. Again, I have highlighted the area here, selling supplements and tests. And this is where I want to talk about VAT. I know a lot of people, a lot of practitioners have questions about VAT. So first of all, the threshold to register, it changed from 1st of April 2024. It increased to 90,000, so 90,000 pounds, which is good because it was less before. So it gives us a little bit more time to register. But what is really important, what we're talking about when we're talking about 90,000, it's the turnover. So what is the turnover? Every time you invoice a client for your services, for selling supplements, tests, adding up all those invoices, that's your turnover. So why is it important to know this information from the beginning and to have a strategy in place? Because I'm going to give an example. So you have a client, maybe you have them with their digestion, and you would like to order a Genova SIBO test and maybe suggest them some supplements. So you can do it in two ways. Your client is there in your Zoom appointment and maybe for a discovery course, and you decide, okay, we're going to work together. I charge X amount for my consultation, but I really would like you to order a SIBO test and start with certain supplements right away before we get the results. So what you can do, you can invoice the client for your consultation, for the total amount they need to pay for the SIBO test, and for the total amount that represents the supplements. So all that is going to be part of your turnover. However, the SIBO test, as an example, it costs you £135 from Genova, and the suggested price to client is 160. So you really just make £25 on that. So instead of invoicing to the client directly, what you do, you tell your client, okay, well, these are the tests and supplements I would like us to start with. I'm going to order you the SIBO test, but you're going to pay directly to Genova. Same with the supplements. You can register your customers, your clients on Amrita or whatever site you are using. You can suggest what to buy and they buy them directly. Post Genova and Amrita, they're going to pay you for the referral fee, let's call it £25 or whatever for the supplements. In that way, obviously the consultation fees is going to be the same. But if you structure your business in this way, your total turnover that counts towards VAT is going to be less. And it makes sense to do it this way because you don't want to have a big turnover, then you subtract the price of the test, and overall, your profit is not going to be too high and still be a business that is registered with VAT, because you still in the beginning of your business, you're not making enough money to afford to pay the tax, the VAT tax. Another case scenario is when multiple nutritional therapists, they get together, maybe NTA was the first one starting this particular NT business. The person got very busy, so got more NTs in the team. So we have NTA, the main person of this nutrition business, and NTB and C, they're working and helping NTA. So they see the same clients, or basically the clients who approach NTA's business. However, how you structure it, who the clients are going to pay for their consultation to, it's really important. You can imagine if all the clients are going to pay their invoices to NTA, this NTA is going to reach the threshold very quickly. Instead, because basically everybody is self-employed, they're not employed. NT, B, and C are not employed by NTA. They're all maybe sole traders. It would make sense that everybody invoices directly to the clients, and obviously NT, B, and C, they paying NTA, again, whatever you call it, referral fees. It's basically, it might be covering mentorship or other services. And in this way, NTA is not going to achieve that thresholds so fast. So I spent quite a lot of time explaining this because I see this is one of the big questions that a lot of practitioners have as they grow. So it's important how you structure your business from the beginning. So that was about VAT. Again, the next section is how you're going to promote your business. Obviously, you're going to have a website, social media. It's important not to try to post in all social medias. Just choose one or two that you're going to work on, and what materials you're going to have, and whether you're going to specialize into a niche market. The sole trader versus limited company topic I'm going to cover on further slides, as well as questions on what scheduling system, payment system, and accounting systems to use. In regards on your team, where we covered the part where potentially multiple entities or maybe even functional medicine doctors and entities coaches work together as a team, but there are a lot of different admin work that is covered in a business, right? So who is going to answer the phones? Who is going to answer the emails? Who creates the initial website? Who changes the website? Who posts on social media? Then the accounting part, to watch basically your budget, to see what expenses you have, how to calculate out what tax you're going to pay, how much you're going to pay monthly to yourself. All these tasks, I would say in the beginning, everybody tries to do them all on their own, so they have less expenses. But as you grow, you need to decide, okay, well, maybe I really love to post on social media. I really want to do that. And it's not like you're going to be able to do 24/7 nutrition therapy. You want to have a little break to do a bit different work. So it's all right to keep some of these tasks to yourself. But literally, as you grow, you want to concentrate on your business. You want to concentrate on what you do best: coaching, consultation as a nutrition therapist. You don't want to waste your time on these other tasks. Then potentially it's a good idea to have others to have others do it, to hire an accountant or a virtual assistant or somebody posting for social media. On this slide, excuse me, I'm gonna talk to those of you who are just starting. I can't emphasize enough how important it is as soon as you start your business to set up a separate bank account. As a limited company is compulsory. As a sole trader, it doesn't really matter. You could use your personal bank account. However, if you want to save time, if you want to know exactly how your business is doing, if you don't want to spend days and days to gather information when the tax return is due, you can make this big decision. You don't even need to open a business bank account as a sole trader. You just open a separate personal account, but keep things separate. When you go out to purchase things, have both bank cards. With one bank card, you're going to buy your groceries, but at the same time, maybe you buy some printing paper for your business, then you use that card. It's really easy to always think that way. So when it comes to managing your business, what you can do, you go to your online banking, you download your information into Excel, and basically in the beginning, you just use that Excel as your bookkeeping system. We don't need any more complicated bookkeeping system. Excel is quite easy to use. Hopefully, most of the people know at least basics of Excel. You download all your information. You have your income, your expenses. If you have a cash flow budget, that I suggest you do from the beginning, you can always update it for your actual income and expenses and forecast the future 12 months. It's always a good idea to forecast the next 12 months in advance so you know how you're doing. And as payment system, what you use as a payment system? If you have practice better, you can choose either Stripe or Square. So behind the scenes, that's how you're going to take payments. If you see clients in person, it's a good idea to get a card machine. The systems can provide you with card machine. When is a good idea to use PayPal? So first of all, you need to create a business PayPal account. And if you're offering expensive packages, and sometimes clients have hard time to afford it, it's really good to have a PayPal account because they offer, basically PayPal offers a 3 months interest-free payment plan. So you issue an invoice to the client. When the client opens that, they can choose to pay either with their PayPal account, a card, or they can choose the 3 months free interest-free installment. The beauty of it is yourself as a practitioner, you're going to get the whole package price in advance, less some fees for PayPal, but the client is able to pay in some installment payments. Go cardless is best to use if you have membership with clients because it does automatic direct debits on a monthly basis, so nobody forgets to pay their monthly fees to you. In the next bullet point, I have an important concept again, a little bit going back to the VAT that you need to consider. So a lot of us, when we start on to have our own business in nutrition therapy, we might be still employed or potentially we had a different business. So I'm giving here an example that is totally different so we understand the concept. For example, you have a business selling furnitures. But as an entity, you might have already offered, like myself, I was offering colonic hydrotherapy, but you might offer massage or acupuncture, anything else still related to the health of a person. So when we think about this, we can categorize this in two different businesses. Selling furniture online is so different from offering alternative therapies that can be considered as a separate business. However, if you're offering not just nutrition therapy, but other similar services I mentioned, it can be considered as separate businesses. You can't say that, okay, I'm going to look at all my turnover being a massage therapist, and I'm going to calculate that of a nutrition therapist, or maybe even separately just selling supplements. You can't do that and then say, okay, I need to look at each of them separately and I'm not reaching the threshold for VAT. No, all those services, nutrition, selling supplements, tests, even if you do them in different locations, different clinics potentially, everything needs to count as one business and calculate all your invoices together to come up with your turnover and look at how much your VAT threshold, whether you're reaching your VAT threshold or not. However, you can look at separately for your furniture business. It's so different, and potentially you might even drop this business as you get busy. So in that case, you don't need to combine it all. You can count it separately, and you might have one already registered as a VAT business, and the other one you are not reaching the threshold yet to register. Okay, this is probably a lot of people they're waiting for. As a sole trader, you have benefits because it's very easy to start. The startup costs are probably much lower. What you make in your business, that all belongs to you as an owner. You can make decision fast. There's only you and the business. You have full privacy, no legal obligations to disclose your financial information. And you can even submit your tax return. It's quite easy. By the same time, if you decide to hire an accountant, even the cost for the accountant to deal with the sole traders accounts, probably between 20, 25 pounds. It depends on the accountant. It depends on how big your business is. And but it's not much more than that. As a limited company, it's really important. The limited company is a separate entity. It's separate from the owner. So let's say, hopefully not going to have this situation, but if you are getting sued by somebody and it gets to a point that it doesn't turn out so well, then you're going to lose only the assets of the business. Nobody can touch your personal assets. So you don't have the risk of your personal assets, your house or anything. It's also easier to raise capital. Probably a bank is going to give you a loan a little bit easier as a limited company. If you decide you're not going to take money out from your limited company because you want to invest, you want to grow, you obviously, if your limited company is profitable, you're going to pay corporate tax on it. But as an individual, you're not going to get taxed on the on the money you make in your limited company because you haven't paid it out to yourself yet. Potentially, you are more credible as a limited company, and it's easier to continue if you decide to sell it. The disadvantages of being a sole trader. Well, we talked about the advantages in a limited company that that you have protection against your personal assets. As a sole trader, you don't. Unfortunately, if you get sued, you can be at risk of losing your house and all your personal assets. It's potentially a limited capacity to raise capital. You might have some savings to start your business, or you get a loan potentially from a family member. The positive of making decisions quickly, well, it can be also negative because sometimes it's good to have multiple people making decisions together. As I mentioned, a limited company, you're not going to be taxed as a person until you take the money out. However, even if you don't take any money out of your sole trader business for personal use, you're still going to be taxed. Any profit you make, you're going to be taxed as an individual. Usually, you're going to have a sole trader, well, you're going to have a sole trader business on your own, but if you want multiple sole trader businesses to work together, they need to form a partnership. It's also not as easy to sell in case you don't want to continue with your business. A limited company is harder to start. You need to register in Companies House. There are some startup costs. You're going to need to decide how you're going to pay yourself. As I mentioned, you are not taxed until you take the money out. However, you can't just decide, oh, I'm taking £100 today, 200 tomorrow. You need to decide in advance. You're going to pay yourself as a salary. You're going to take dividends. Potentially, you can do a loan from the company to yourself. But it's not easy to just take the money from your limited company's account as from a bank account that you have as a sole trader. Also, there are more filing requirements. Besides the tax return, you need to submit statutory accounts, more complex. Most of people can't do that themselves. They need to hire an accountant. The fees are going to be higher as hiring as a sole trader because it's more complex. Depending whether you are VAT registered or you have people you're employing, it can go, I put 50 to 100 pounds a month. It can be more, obviously, if you're a bigger limited company. And another one, very important thing, sorry, I'm just trying to say it quickly here. Like you decide, okay, I'm gonna establish my limited company. You come up with a nice name and you start setting up your website and all of that. No, the first step you need to do is go to company's house and check out whether that name is available. You don't want to spend all that money for a website and it turns out somebody already using that name and you're not going to be able to register under that name. So again, very important, you decide to have a limited company, come up with a name, check it out, whether it exists or it's allowed to use it. Other considerations, what's your scheduling system going to be? Again, as a person who just starting a business, you might just use your paper diary or your phone, Google Calendar. It doesn't need to be too complicated, too costly. As you grow, it's more professional to use a certain system. A lot of people use Acuity currently. I use Practice Better. I like it. It's so many things you can do. You can do your notes. Also, you need to make sure you use a system that's GDPR compliant. Don't forget to register with ICO. And if you have paper files, you need to lock them in a cabinet. Nobody else has access to them. The same if you save client information on an external drive, you need to lock it. Nobody else having access to it. And you can use different online drives. Make sure again it's GDPR compliant. Payment systems, I mentioned Stripe, Square, PayPal, GoCardless. You guys probably have others to mention here. And it's really important. Like there was a point when I decided to take 100% in advance from clients as a deposit. In the beginning, you're probably not going to do that, but you're going to need to have a system in place, how to check whether people paid you. If you have a bookkeeping system, accounting system, you're going to check there. In Practice Better, if you issue all your invoices there is a place where you can check whether some of your invoices are not paid. If you don't use any of this system, just use Excel. As soon as you issue an invoice to a client or they committed, they're going to pay you for your services, put that information down. Then you go to a bank account, you check it, you put that information in Excel. So you have continuous track. Again, this is a business. You want to make sure you're making money. It's not just a hobby. Regarding bookkeeping systems to use, some examples there, Xero, QuickBooks. I use Xero for both of my clinic and my accounting business. I really like it. But as soon as you have a separate bank account, you can download the information in Excel. That's totally fine to use it as your bookkeeping system. Excuse me. On this slide, I wanted to just summarize a few mistakes we could all make in the beginning as a business. When we create a website, obviously we want to put all down all our credentials, but as our potential client gets to a website, it's really important for them to see how you're going to help them, to recognize that you are talking to them. Then you need to have like a 60-second elevator pitch. A lot of people are going to ask you when meeting them, oh, what a nutrition therapist does, or what you do. And they might not have more than a few seconds to listen to you. So it's really important to have that handy. Also, you need to know where your ideal client to be found. Are they going to yoga classes? Then potentially the free talk there. Or where about they showing up online? The next point is really important, and it talks to me a lot because this was one of my mistakes. Don't allow everybody giving you advice. And most of the people who don't even have a business start to give you advice on how to run a business. You probably remember, some family members doing that. But how you can avoid that? If you have a business plan, if you have a cash flow budget, you have that in a rolling 12 months basis, and you put all your information down, your goals and your ideas monitorized in this spreadsheet, and you know how you're growing, how you're going to do, then it's less tempting to listen to everybody else, because you have your control over your business. You know what you want to achieve and what you're doing for that day by day. Also, as soon as in the spreadsheet you see that you're achieving profit, you can use it as a calculation how much tax, income tax, VAT, if you are registered as VAT, how much you need to put aside month by month, and how you're going to pay and how much you're going to be paying yourself. So this page is, we talked about most of it, just a summary. You need to always think ahead and know what's the point when it makes more sense to switch from a sole trader to a limited company. What's the amount? Maybe ask an accountant how to calculate that out and keep an eye on it. How you're going to pay yourself. If a sole trader, it's easier, but you still need to know how much to put aside for your tax. As a limited company, you need to decide, are you going to have pay yourself payroll, dividend, and how to decide on that. As I mentioned, the threshold to VAT from 1st of April, it changed to 90,000. Then another decision we talked about, if you want to expand, how to structure your business when you have other team members working for you. Well, not employed, but as a team. I talked a little bit about how you can structure that to avoid having to register for VAT too early. You might want to know some information how to raise capital. For example, you decide to go into a physical clinic. The costs they are going to be much higher for rent. Potentially, you need to get some funding for that. And again, it always needs to be a good calculation about putting aside for taxes, so you don't get a nasty surprise at year end. So before we answer any questions you might have put in the chat box, I mentioned the training I'm gonna do in May. So it's a 2-session training, and I talked a lot about the importance of having a cash flow budget, how to put that in Excel, how to monitor. But in these 2 sessions, I want to go through it. It would be a hands-on training session, so it's really good to be able, although it's going to be recorded, it's important to be present or live on this, because we can brainstorm together what type of expenses to put in, how to calculate the income, how to calculate from the profit the income tax that you're going to need to pay at year end, and how to pay yourself at the end. Of course, if you are interested more to just maybe ask some specific questions from me, I can also offer a one-to-one consultation. So in this next page, and I'm going to leave this page here for you, on the left side, you're going to see a QR code where you can book an appointment for a one-to-one consultation with me. On the right-hand side, I have another QR code to register for the training, which is going to be on the 9th and the 23rd of May at 12. If you register today, I have a discount code of 25% from consultation. If you enter Genova _25, Genova_10 is for 10% from the training session, and you have some information on the bottom of the page here if you want to check out my website, or if you just want to get in touch with me through the email. So that was the presentation, and I'm going to hand it over to Emilia now to let us know if you guys have any more questions.
That is great. Thank you so much, Andrea. We have got a couple of questions that have started to drop through. So we've got someone here who said, I've had different advice from different accountants, but about putting supplements, and I buy and take myself through my business. What is your take on this?
Yeah, and then I can see that, because when we think about the different accountants, they're not specifically specializing. They might have some clients in the construction industry, some tutors, or obviously nutrition therapists, or many other businesses. So they're not necessarily specializing in our business. And when you try to research on it as a practitioner, as an accountant, then it's not going to say, the rules are not going to be very clear. But as a nutrition therapist, you can imagine, and an accountant, I looked into this and I really wanted to find loopholes, but unfortunately, if we sell supplements through invoicing or test invoicing directly to the client, that's going to all be considered for the threshold for VAT. So, and I gave you some tips how you can delay that registration. I hope it makes sense.
Great, thank you. And another question here. I've heard some people use expenses or expense the tests that they take on themselves. Is this recommended, and is this allowed in your opinion?
So officially it's not allowed. So basically what they say, even if you use anything from your business, like for example, if somebody has shops and then clothes and then just takes home some of the clothes, that needs to be subtracted, and on the cost that you would sell it to a customer or client. And it's basically not a business expense, because it's use it for yourself. Obviously there are, like if you need to have a uniform, then obviously that can be a business expense. I would say when you first start off and then you don't have a client and you want to run a test just to know how it looks like, and you run it on yourself, potentially that can be argued that you can use it as an expense, because you run it because you want to learn how to use it in your business. But officially all these need to be personal expenses. If you even buy it with a different card, you can still pay the lower expense, right? So you still have some benefits there, but yeah, it's not business expense.
Great, thank you very much. And just while we're touching on that as well, there was a question that came in earlier. Are there any industry-specific deductions or expenses that we should be aware of in this sector?
So again, we have quite similar expenses from our membership to band and Zoom expense and internet use and all that. What I experienced that potentially, and not just practitioners, but a lot of small businesses working from home forget to expense that we should, is working from home or potentially commuting to a different location than our main location of business. So to explain that, we work from home, all of us work from home on Zoom, and those expenses, instead of taking, okay, well, I'm paying rent or mortgage and utilities and so forth, HMRC has a certain amount, they're changing every year, but based on how many hours you work from home. So what I advise people to keep, again, in Excel all the hours they worked from home, and based on that there is an expense we can calculate at year end on what we can submit on the tax return. In regards of using your car, so if most of the time you work from home, but maybe once a month you rent a room in a clinic and you drive there, then again you can consider that. But it's not the gas you put in your car. You need to calculate and keep track of the mileage back and forth. And HMRC has a cost per mileage that we can expense, because they consider not just the gas you use, but the dilapidation of the car. So I'm not sure if that answered the question. Probably we can answer this question more in the training sessions I'm offering, because that's where we can brainstorm of what typical expenses we have and what can be considered and potentially what cannot.
Might vary from person to person, yeah.
Yeah, it might.
Another question, can you expense things like training courses, and how far back can this go? Can you backdate things like that?
You said training courses.
Yes, training
Yeah.
courses.
Yeah, so we all need to do CPD. So all that CPD can be expensed. However, let's say we're talking again about a nutrition therapist. As a nutrition therapist, we go to different courses related to specialize in certain areas. But if you realize, oh, I really like the idea to become an acupuncturist, then the training to become an acupuncturist that can be expensed, because it's almost like a separate business. And the same going backwards, you're not going to be able to expense the cost, the tuition fees you pay to, I don't know, somebody where you done your nutritional course. You're not going to be able to expense that. But any trainings from the time you qualified as a nutritionist, you're going to be able to expense. A gray area, I would say, if you do a course to be a coach as well, yeah, I would say you expense that, because that's going to help you to in your nutrition consultation, because you have some coaching skills. Does it make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And you touched briefly on HMRC a moment ago. Where can you find that HMRC formula that changes every year?
So if you just Google HMRC, then their website comes up, and they have well, I don't have a link on top of my head, but it's quite easy. HMRC wants us to pay taxes, so it's not hard to find the information if you just Google in exactly what you want to know. Um, for example, how much is the rate to for working from home businesses or something like that. You Google, it's probably going to come up with that website. But again, if you come to this training or on the consultation, we can discuss that, and depending on your case scenario, you know, I can give you the link or the amount. But yeah, it might change. It doesn't change every year, but they make changes to this amount. So I don't like to just say an amount and in 2 years you listen to this and it's different amount.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question in here, what is your advice about submitting corporation tax returns? Can it be done without an accountant?
So I mentioned that it's a bit more complex, but it's not so much the corporation tax that it is the limitation. You need to submit statutory accounts to Companies House. So what that means, it's basically probably all seen. It would have, what's your income and expense, and then there is a balance sheet with all your assets and liabilities, and it has notes. So those notes can be quite complex, how to put them together. So I doubt, unless you have done something like this before, you would know how to do it. So that's probably the limitation where, yeah, it can be tried, but it's do you really want to risk not doing the right way, and then you get an audit from HMRC? Neither of us want that, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another question here, can we expense things like mentoring costs?
Yeah, mentoring cost is a cost for your business because it's a development cost. It's almost like a CPD, but just one-on-one. So absolutely, I would do that.
Perfect. And then another question that we had in earlier, what are your tips for budgeting when you're looking to expand your team?
Yeah, so again, you use the spreadsheet I was suggesting, and you just incorporate, probably I would do a separate tab on the income part, and then for every team member, I would have a separate column, and decide how many clients they're gonna potentially see, think about what extra costs are. I'm just thinking, like the Zoom, probably everybody needs to have a separate Zoom account, so that's going to be extra per practitioner. But certain costs are going to be similar, regardless how many people are in the practice. So you consider that a separate tab where you calculate out all your team members, and then you see what extra expenses you occur because of that. And I don't know if that's the question, or how you're gonna have the extra funds you potentially need to have a loan, or so. I don't know if I answered the question, or there are more specific question on that. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be one of those that's more, like you say, more specific to that person, might be great for a consult kind of question. We do have a question on insurance. So if you choose to get insurance, what would that protect you as a sole trader? I'm still a student and weighing up all of my options.
So obviously we have the liability insurance as practitioners, and that is what covers us if we get sued. Hopefully none of us get sued, but you never know. The question is how much your insurance is covering you for, and how big the problem is going to be, and if the amount in the insurance is enough to cover it. If not enough, then that's when they go after your assets. And again, it's a limited company, only the assets of the company. If you're a sole trader, your own assets. And I know it sounds very scary, but how many of these cases we hear? So yeah, I don't know if it's really a big risk as a nutrition therapist. Obviously, if you have more risky business, like some of you specialize maybe in cancer patients, or some cases when potentially it's a more risk that people are gonna get more upset of what we do, even if we done it right. But overall, I don't feel working as a sole trader is gonna be a huge risk, but everybody needs to decide on their risk awareness. And as you grow, it's a better idea, excuse me, to go limited company for many different reasons, not just the insurance or the liability risk, but for financial reasons, tax reasons.
Yeah, and just on that, are there any types of business insurance that people should be looking out for, or is there any guidance around that?
So I think we all use similar practice insurances. I don't know if the additional So if you work from home on Zoom, you don't go to a clinic, that's probably enough. As soon as you go to a clinic, then the advice is, if you're renting a room, to talk to the clinic manager whether the clinic has an insurance. For example, if somebody comes in and trips over the carpet because it's just peeled off, then is it the nutrition therapist, so the client visited is responsible? Shouldn't be, right? It's the clinic's manager who should be responsible. However, if they don't have insurance, you end up potentially paying or being liable yourself. So that's one of the things I would advise if you rent a room, to ask the clinic manager or the owner. If you have your own clinic, like myself, I had to take on a clinic insurance. So it's not enough to our liability insurance.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Another question here, probably going to have to be the last question before we reach the end of our time. Would you recommend choosing to go down the route of an accountant, or would you try and take it all on yourself if you're just starting out?
Definitely, when you're starting, don't spend too much money on all the different tasks, because probably you're gonna have time to do it, and that's why I'm offering this kind of training, because probably there we can discuss how to do it and what type of tasks you need to do. Obviously, if you have another business or you are employed and you feel like you're not going to have enough time, then it might be a good idea, so you have enough time left for to see clients, right? It's a very special, one person decides differently from another, because myself, obviously, as a nutritionist, I enjoyed to do my numbers because I'm an accountant, but I think some people really hate this type of thing. So it's a very, very personal decision. But for cost perspective, I wouldn't worry to have an accountant or sign up with a bookkeeping system. Just use Excel yourself. Maybe do a consultation here and there with an accountant to make sure you're doing it right. And then the point where you really need to decide about an accountant is when become limited company. I wouldn't do it on my own there.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thank you so much, Andrea.
You're
That
welcome.
is all that we have time for today. Hope everyone enjoyed this month's webinar, and thank you again to Andrea for sharing the resources and your time. I hope everyone gets to make use of those consultation sessions.